I traveled highways.
All right, folks, we are back with another edition of the Red Mud Podcast. I'm your host, Evan. That was little Frank Sinatra that set the mood for this podcast. Matt Coe looked at me like I am a crazy person. He probably didn't recognize who that is. He is too young. But
whoa, hey now.
As always, Matt Coe is here with me. Talk basketball. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, man. Look, I know my music, okay? You threw me off with that one. I like the start.
Yeah, so the end is near. I think this is inevitable after the loss to Syracuse at home 2 nights ago, I guess it was. Yeah, they're going to miss the tournament. And if the administration has any backbone, I think Kevin Keith will be relieved of duty and we will be on to something else. It's not for certain. I don't know anything. I don't think anybody does. But I just don't see how you can keep them. I think the fan apathy is at an extremely high level. There's a lot of other things going on. And, I don't really want to make this about a, Fired Keats podcast, but it is a discussion because I think it is coming. And barring a miracle run in the ACC tournament, they're going to miss the NCAA tournament. And at some point, your bare minimum for success has to be a top 64 team and get into the NCAA tournament. Like, that should not be that hard. And right now they're sitting at 86 in the net, I believe. Lowest ranked team to ever make the net was Rutgers in 22 at 77, but they were 6-6 in their quad one games. And NC State is, 1-6, but they backdoored into 2-6 now when Wake destroyed Pitt the other night. So, yeah, I think the writing's on the wall, and I think everybody's kind of ready to just turn the page. That's kind of where I am. That's kind of what I wrote the other day, is that for me, I'm just over it. I'm over the bickering one way or the other. I'm overing the defending him. I'm over the people, blasting him. I want to focus on basketball. I want to focus on the program getting better, and we're not there. And I think it's inevitable. So it's time to move on. And yeah, I think, Matt, I don't know if you read David's piece the other day that I thought was really well done. And the premise was that it was NC State basketball needs an identity. And I think he was spot on, because I think that's something that's been missing. We've been toiling in mediocrity for a long time. And at some point you have to decide if you're going to be good at it, right? If you're going to go hire the best you can be, if you're going to go and, hire Frank Wade, I'm going to call him Frank, even though that confused Matt. I'm going to hire, Frank Wade instead of Ryan Odom, right? I'm going to make an inspiring hire. I'm going to go out and try to make the best I can be, because I want our program to have an identity. So I don't know. Where are you feeling about all this, Matt? Like, I know we've just discussed it in the chat and whatnot, but is it the end? Is the end here?
Yeah, we've discussed it ad nauseum. I don't think that we're the ones that started this conversation, but I like to think that we gave it some life. Look, your record is who was the coach for the Cardinals? They are who we thought they were.
Oh, Dennis Green?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Wait, that was Jim Mora.
Come on now. This is a program that
Dennis Green.
Yeah, that is it just needs a facelift. It's gotten to the point now where even our own fans are at turmoil with each other.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a lot to ask for to be a top 64 team, like you said. For a school that likes to call itself a basketball school, it's tough because, you had mentioned this in the chat one time, and I think it's pretty accurate. If you're going to fail fast and move on. You get stuck in this complacency, and then you're having to convince yourself that everything's fine. We had talked about it yesterday. Last year bought Keats some time, and although it was a fine season, that should kind of be the minimum, I would probably say, if you really want to be a relevant, successful basketball school. But how much time did he really buy? He regressed back to the means. He just is what he is. He's below 500 in the ACC. We're sitting at what I think 7th it is right now, maybe 8th. In the ACC, I haven't looked at the standings in a couple of days, but at some point, like, you are what your record says you are. And I don't want this to be one big, like, we told you so type thing. Anybody can kind of see this one coming, but it's just the fact that people turn a blind eye to this thing in front of you year in and year out. I mean, his best season was last year, and where did we finish in the ACC?
5th,
something like that, right? I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's like a kitchen in a house that's supposed to be nice, has some good bones. It just needs a facelift. This whole program needs an injection of a rebirth to it. Like, you just need to start over. Just wash your hands clean. You tried this thing out, and it's time to go. It's time to move on if you want to be taken serious.
Yeah, I agree. I think the downfall of Kevin Keatts is always going to be, and I'm not going to get into his coaching. I think a lot of people make more of that than is really there, right? I mean, I think there could be some things that are better, right? He claimed to be a defensive coach, and our defensive numbers have been pretty abysmal under his tenure. But for the most part, it comes down to his inability to build a roster. I don't think he's ever had the pieces he's needed to win at this level in the ACC. And I don't know, could probably get into why and all that stuff, but I don't know if that's really worth the time. But he hasn't done it, right? The recruiting hasn't been able to identify and land enough top talent, right? He always had those guys commit to him and never made it to campus. But even like the rest of the guys, he brought in just too many guys that are non-contributors, right? His inability to realize what's ACC level talent and what's not is, to me, it's going to be his downfall. Like that is, that to me is the single most glaring part of it.
And to grow on that really quick, I want to say college basketball with the whole NIL and the way transfer is set up right now, the portal, it is a year-to-year thing. It's very rare right now where a team is seeing consistent success at the same rate, unless you're a top tier program. And even some of those top tier programs are struggling from time to time. Gonzaga being one, Kentucky kind of teetering right there. For something like college basketball to be such a year to year differential, not a whole lot of consistency. The only thing that's been consistent under Keatts is underwhelming. That's the only thing that's been consistent. And whether you like the guy, I think it's safe to say, like, nobody feels like he's the coach for too much longer, or, after the season. We don't know, we're just playing the what if game. But for something to be so inconsistent, and the only consistency is that you are consistently not good, should be enough to kind of, I guess, tell you where you should, turn the page, tell you where you should lie.
Yeah, I think for him, he's brought in mediocre rosters and he's gotten mediocre results. I think that is pretty obvious where the flaw in the system has been. Like, bring in better players, and I think he's a okay enough coach to coach up the players to their ability level. Like, he's not getting more out of them and he's not getting less out of them, right? It's not like City Lowe's rolling out a basketball and letting them do what they want, but he's still not getting the most out of the mediocre talent he's got, and instead you get mediocre results. And at some point, I'm like, it's time to move on. Like, whatever. I know people like him. He smiles a lot, says, silly things, but if you don't win, who cares, right? To me, that's, in this day and age, like you said, it's a talent acquisition process, and get talent, and you can win. It shouldn't take that long. And a lot of the comments when I put out the article are like, who we're going to get, right? Who can we get better? Which is I hate that. Like, I don't know. Like, it's hard. It's impossible to judge coaching hires ahead of time. But there are a lot of guys out there who have coached successful basketball programs more and have a bigger resume than Kevin Keatts. I don't think it's that hard to go get one of them and see what happens. Give it 3 or 4 years. If it doesn't work, fire him and move on, right? Don't give him 7-8 years and just think he's going to magically grow into something that he's not. And that's the part where we've just kind of toiled in mediocrity too long at some point. And I've always said, if you're going to fail faster, right? Learn and move on, because it doesn't take that long to build a basketball program these days. And there are other teams that are doing it faster than NC State is, and it's upsetting, man. I'm just ready to care about basketball again. I'm watching these games and I'm like, we lost.
I think a lot of fans are. I mean, we're seeing it in real time. You know, a lot of people's excuses is, you know, who's going to drive in Raleigh traffic at 7:00 on a Wednesday or whatever the case may be. It's like fans that care right now, they don't care. They're not showing up to games and they don't feel the need to. This is a dead end road. Why go down it? I think the fans are speaking to you with their dollar signs. I mean, they're just not going to games. That should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Right?
And I felt that way during the Syracuse game. The entire time when they were trying to make that little comeback, I just kept telling myself, so what? Who cares if you win this game? Like it doesn't matter.
Well, I still want to win.
Right. I want us to win too. That temperament that people like to make, like, oh, you just want us to lose. Like, no, why would I want us to lose? But at the same time, it's like, so what if we win? We're still the same team. Like, nothing changes except for this, you know, this record that really isn't all that great either. Yeah.
It's funny going back. One of the comments I got on Twitter was Debbie Yao should have seen this coming. Right? Debbie Yao should have seen that. And this was an interesting fact to me. Kevin Keats has 0 Power 6 wins, so Power 5 plus the Big East at UNCW. He was 0 for 7. And then if you include the MAC and Conference USA, he was 0 for 10. So, like, it's kind of what you had pointed out before, or you talked about before, is that he has scheduled a lot of cupcakes. And he has manipulated the schedule for wins. Now, he did win 3 conference championships and 2 conference tournaments at UNCW. So he was winning at that level. But you look at the overall wins record, and it is highly inflated with a lot of teams that are easy to beat, right? And I thought it was interesting. I never really looked that deep at his past. I don't expect anybody to, because I still think it was a worthy risk in it, right? It was a
good hire at the time. I think at the time, out of that pool of coaches that were in that little setting, I think I remember distinctly that, like, us and I want to say it was like Wichita State got like the highest grades when they had Greg Marshall. If he was in that pool, I might be remembering this incorrectly, but y'all can, go do your own research.
Right. I mean,
but
the point
it was
a
good hire at the time.
It was a worthy risk, right? He had won 3 conference championships. Like, yeah, all right, the guy's hot. He's going to come in and do some things. So I don't expect her to dig that deeper. And maybe she did, but it was still the right. It was still the right hire. He still won some tournaments at a program that Buzz Peterson had just run into the ground. They were notoriously terrible, and then he comes in 1 year and he wins.
And it was a right hire at the time. And going back to your point, is it the right fire at the time, if you will? Like you said, move on. Got to keep this going, because we're getting into dangerous territory, like you said, where people just don't care right now.
Yeah, so it is what it is, right? I don't want to go back and rehash it. I want us to learn that it's okay to move on, right? It's okay to move on and not constantly give excuses because somebody's nice, or I think there's a lot of ego involved. Like, I hired this guy, or he's one of ours, and I believe that I believed in him, and so I'm going to support him, and I'm going to do, I'm going to say everything I need to say that
to make them look good, and
and just people don't want to admit that they're wrong, and
right.
I'm wrong all the time. Like, I get it. There are certain things that it's okay. You can be wrong and move on. Like, all right, this didn't work out at NC State. Good luck somewhere else, Kevin.
However you feel about Keats in this moment right now is forever how you're going to feel about Keats. Whether you think he runs plays or doesn't, whether you think he's a good coach or doesn't, whether he's had bad luck or good luck or whatever. Like, however you feel right now on this day, it will not change a year later if he is still the NC State head coach.
I got $20 million, so I don't feel too bad for him, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's not
good chunk of change right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it didn't work. Oh, well, move on. Like, I want us to be relevant. NC State is the bigger thing here. It's not Kevin Keats or do you like him or not. Like, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. You can bring in a big asshole if he's good and he wins, I will support him, right? And that's why I want Will Wade. That's why, like, the guy's a winner. He's done it in multiple stops. I know there's some issues and whatever. Who cares? Like, all this stuff's legal now.
Yep.
So just
you mentioned one name.
Hire.
Let's talk about some possible names. You know, I think you and me both have Will Wade at number 1 on our list. Are we in agreement on that?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. So my point about, and I was talking to my dad about this morning, and you know, he had a great point that I can agree with. You got rid of Mark Gottfried, who was kind of a sketchball, kind of a sketchy coach. You had the layover effect with Keats having to deal with all that. Do you really want to hire another sketchy coach? Like you said, it's legal now. I mean, do what you will. All coaches in college basketball are sketchy till they get caught.
Well, here's my take on that is, one, just because one guy is sketchy in one way, and I'm not going to apply whatever that. I'm not going to assume that the next guy is going to do what he did. Right? Mm-hmm. They had, I guess, similar issues, but there's also other issues, right? Everybody knows of Godfrey's transgressions. But yeah, no, I'm just not going to apply the same. Well, he did it, so it's going to keep me from this guy, right? That was one of the mentalities that kept us from hiring Mick Cronin back in the day. Is people? This was a legitimate concern that came out of those close to the athletic department. Is that he looks too much like Herb Sendek, like the guy. Like, he looks too much like Herb. People don't want to, go down that road again. But it was the same thing with Herb. You gave him 10 years. You just toiled too long in mediocrity. Now, then it took a little bit longer to build a program. So I get some of that. But, yeah, I'm just going back to your point is that they're two independent people, right? Mm-hmm. To me, Will Wade is worth the risk, right? If you just, I don't want to say babysit him, but stay on top of him in the manner that you need to as an administrator. And if things go awry, then get ahead of it and move on, right? Nobody's getting in trouble these days. All kinds of programs are cheating. Arizona dude was on FBI tape. Sean Miller just got the Ohio State job, or that's the rumor, right? Who cares? I don't care about these guys getting in trouble anymore.
And nobody expects Will Wade to stay at McNeese State for past this maybe next year, like
he'll be hired this year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, do you really want to sit around and wait on a diamond in the rough? I mean, because look, he was an excellent coach at LSU. Went to 3 tournaments in 5 years. SoCon Coach of the Year. Currently has McNeese State 23-3. That's the best record in program history. I believe I saw last night they're 4th in points per game allowed, 39th in points scored. They don't have a single play over 6'9". They're the 5th best 3-point shooting team in the NCAA. I'll take that risk. I'm just saying it's worth it.
Who cares?
Just at face value alone, right? Without getting into the X's and O's and does he run a play or whatever people like to argue right now. Face value, what I'm seeing on paper should be plenty to go ahead and take that risk. And you can, and I don't know the ins and outs of making the deal or whatnot, but you can lowball him to an extent. Obviously, you want to give him enough that he feels like this is the right spot, but you can lowball him and say, look, this is your, last chance at a high D1 school. You're going up against national programs in Duke and Carolina constantly. Like you did it at LSU, go ahead and do it here too. I don't know, but it's worth the risk.
To me, I just want them to make an inspiring hire. I just don't settle for a guy because he's got ACC ties and he's in Virginia. And I'm gonna use Ryan Odom as my punching bag, right?
Well, let's move on to Ryan Odom.
No, I don't want to get into individual names right now. Let's save that until the thing actually goes down, right? The point is, I just want them to make a commitment, and to me, this hiring is going to indicate whether they're serious about basketball or not. And I want us to be serious about basketball. They should be serious about basketball. It's a lot easier to win in basketball than they are in it is football. It takes a lot less resources in it. So I want to see them make that hire, whether it's Calipari who gets fired from Kentucky or Musselman who wants to leave Arkansas, right? There's plenty of guys out there that are like, I'm serious about, NC State basketball. Like, I'm going to take this seriously. Going and hiring a Ryan Odom is not going to do it for me. Right? I don't think it's going to do it for a lot of people.
Do you think it's a little bit of a lateral move going from like a mid-major coach to another mid-major coach?
It's not even that. It's just not inspiring. The guy, I'm going to say, again, without picking apart his resume, because I don't want to go down that road right now. Simplicity. Somebody in the pod chat said it the best. Utah State is better than they were under him right now, and VCU is not in the tournament. Currently, he was at Utah State last year. He's at VCU now. And I know it's nitpicking and whatnot, but still. He wasn't even that great at UMBC. They had the one win over Virginia, but other than that, I don't know. I just don't think it's inspiring the fan base to say, "Hey, we're serious about it," because they are not going to know who he is. Most people are not going to know who he is. Who's Ryan Odom? Right. They're not going to. He's got the ACC ties through his dad and Boo Corrigan and all that stuff, but I just want them to commit to basketball one way or the other. If they're going to go and get a top end coach, go get a winner. I don't care where he comes from. He could come from, the school from the blind. Just hire somebody who wins. And if he doesn't, get rid of him and find the next guy until it works.
Does the name matter to you a lot? Does a big name, are you trying to hopefully target a big name or?
I think that should be your first go get, right? That should be your first. It should be the first criteria, because I want to say a name, but a proven guy,
right?
A proven name, because you're trying to bring the energy back into the basketball program. And I know everybody will rally around whoever they hire, and I get it, and that's fine. But if you're really trying to say, "Hey, we're serious about basketball," go get somebody that the average NC State fan has heard of. Right?
So do you think you'll get the same reaction from a Justin Gainey? I know that you guys are super.
So if you get down the Gainey route, I can at least see it. We talked about in the chat. I know you want somebody with a head coaching experience, but if you look at the last three major hires, Arizona, Duke, and Carolina, they all hired guys who were not head coaches before. They were longtime assistants at established programs. Justin Gainey, who is NC State point guard, was here under Herb Sendek.
Been a part of a lot of winning teams.
Good point guard, good leader on the floor. Was
clearly climbing the ladder too.
Yeah, he's climbed the ladder. He's worked his way up. He's been at Tennessee with Rick Barnes, who's a guy that every NC State fan wanted back in the day as well. He has been in an established program that has been a high-level program. And Tennessee basketball before Bruce Pearl and Rick Barnes has not been known for being a high-level program, but they have been in the last 10 years. And so if Gainey is where you end up, I'd be okay with it, right? Again, it's still not – it's more inspiring than Ryan Odom because he's an NC State guy. So there's still some of that'll draw comparisons to Sidney Lowe, which I think will be disingenuous, but it will happen. But at least he's a guy that I can say, okay, he's a real basketball coach. He's a real – he's one of us. And there's a little thing – there's things you can sell around that, right? There's things that can get you a little – all right, I'm in, I can buy into this. Go and get Ryan Odom and be like, all right, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Right. But that's not what you want, right? You're trying to fill a 20,000 seat arena. You want somebody with that, that name power, if you can get it. And I think you can. Everybody acts like NC State's poor. We're not poor. We've raised a lot of money. Anytime they ask State fans for money, State fans pony up. Look at all those NIL events, and Will and I have talked about this ad nauseum. We've raised a lot of money. There's a lot of money going around. Our administration gets paid very well. So
does your I don't want to say leash, but does your contract depend? In your opinion, do you think it depends on? Let's say if we're going to play a what if, do you give Will Wade more years to get this thing under control than, let's say, since we just said his name, a Gainey or an Odom? Do you give him a little bit more leeway? Do you give him a little bit more years to kind of figure this out? Or is it just dead set in your eyes? They get 4 years, let's say, for sake of argument.
That's a good question, man. I would tend to give somebody like Wade, and I would tend to give Wade probably a little bit more of a leash, but he's shown he hasn't really needed it. I still would want to see some progress. So, I talk about this a lot with work. It's like, what are your performance? What are you measuring your success on? What are your success indicators? And in the end, it's wins and tournament appearances. But if I'm in administration, I'm looking at other signals that say things are going in the right direction. Are you getting, higher caliber players? Are you, top 25 wins, or things like that I don't know what they are offhand, but that are showing me that, hey, we're moving in the right direction. Right. I shouldn't be able to pick apart the resume and like you've done many times and like, look, they're not beating anybody. Right? There's nobody on the schedule. It doesn't matter. There should be some other indicators to say what's being successful or not. Right. And you should see some progress towards that. That's how I would measure that. But I'd stand pretty firm at 4 years. Like if you're not in 4 years, you had made the tournament, out.
All right. Let's grow on this. 4 years, no tournaments, out. I can agree with that. Take away NC State's history, the team program that they are right now, 4 years, one tournament, in or out.
Say that again.
4 years, one tournament appearance, in or out.
Is it the first year or the fourth year?
Let's say the second year. Throw you a curveball.
1 in 4 is not great. It would kind of depend. I'd say you're out. 1 in 4. Like to me,
let's say it's the fourth year and you win a game or two.
Yeah, carry on, my friend.
All right,
because you're showing progress.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you got to be honest with yourself. You got to look at it like I've said. This has been a perspective season for NC State. Like everybody's getting excited about DJ Horn, and he's fun, right? But so what? I mean, it's not amounting to much. Hey, Keats is fun. So what? It ain't amounting to much. You got to be honest with yourself as an NC State fan. You are now currently where you are sitting. You cannot expect yourself to go to the tournament every season, at least not with this coaching regime that you have right now. Right. So it's a weird catch-22 situation with whoever comes in. Do I think we get a Will Wade? I'd love to see it. That'd be great. But I don't know if he has his eyes set on a NC State. I mean, he did it at LSU. Why not, shoot for the stars? I'm worried that we're going to settle for a guy kind of like Odom, and then we're going to be in the situation where 1 in 4 years, and you just can't have that right now. And look, 1 in 4 years right now would be kind of the same track record we have with Keats. So It's all about perspective, man.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everybody assumes Michigan's going to be open too, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got Vanderbilt.
Well, that's not open yet, but it's going to be open, I guess.
It's going to be, yeah.
Louisville
probably.
Louisville and Michigan are the two that I would worry about, being ahead of us in the pecking order. I don't think there shouldn't be many others that it should be ahead of us in the pecking order.
Do you think that'd be alarming if they land the coach that we want, seeing that Louisville's been at the bottom of the ACC for the past?
No. Louisville's got a lot of money. They got the history. They've got recent national championships. Louisville is a higher profile basketball program. I would not, if we're going to go after Dusty May, cool. Like
I'd be all right with that one.
Yeah, he's going to Louisville, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen, or they at least think that's going to happen. I mean, he's going to pick. I would pick Louisville over us too, right? It's the program has just gotten more. I would not blame anybody for picking Louisville over us in terms of basketball.
Yeah.
We're third in that pecking order.
And a lot of people like to argue Calipari possibly losing his job. I think because Kentucky has set that idea in their heads that if they're not winning championships, then you're not good enough. And I mean, kudos to them. They've made themselves, a powerhouse school, and they're a blue blood, so they get to claim that for sure. But
Kentucky's Big Swing and Johnson is going to go after a Musselman, or going to go after a Brad Stevens or somebody, somebody like that, like a really big name. They're not swimming in the same pools that we are, right? They're not fishing in the same pond.
Right.
Yeah.
I think just like I said, it's all about perspective with them. I mean, if you want to get rid of one of the best coaches in the country who consistently has you in the top 25, I mean, be my guest, but
that's their standard, though, right?
That's their standard. That's their standard.
Yeah. Yep. So that's a good standard for us getting the top 25 every
right.
year. Cool. That's good for us. Not for Kentucky. In Kentucky, you need to be competing for the top. I think that's pretty clear. So, but good for them. Set your mark and shoot for it, right? And I commend them for it. Right? We don't have that. We're just like, yeah, it's okay. You're good. Keep going. Have fun. Everybody's nice. Just like, come on, man.
I think worst case scenario, if like I said, if you want to play what if, we're talking about best case scenario Will Wade. Worst case scenario is NC State is an NIT team and they go on a run. Then he just bought himself another year. And then we're going to have this same conversation next year.
If that's the case, I will go on a tirade because if you're using NIT runs as your metric for success, then I have no interest in supporting your program. Like, I'm done. If that's your level of this is what we're trying to achieve. And I say the same thing about the football program. Like bowls, who cares about a bowl? Like, I want to win. And like, show me some progress towards winning a championship of any kind. Show me an NIT championship.
Well, that was the predecessor. 2 maybe 3 weeks ago. It was like it was either the same week or the week before we we did our latest pod, and the argument was no, Keats won't get fired this year. Next year he has to win. Well, we've been saying that for the past 2 years, and right. Now we're sitting here talking about how the writing's on the wall. So like this constant back and forth. What are we buying time for? If you know it's a dead end road, don't go down it. That's what I was trying to say before. Like I could easily see this team rallying in the NIT, playing in Reynolds and having a great old time. And then he's got fans duped again. And hey, it's that 2018, 2019 season all over again.
Yep. It's funny, we're talking about that. It just doesn't take that long to build a roster. And I'm going to give you an example. And this is from a guy that I'm going to have on the pod later in this week, hopefully, to talk to 74 team. But he said 93 names on the roster under Kevin Keats. 54 unique names to break that down. 3 players for 4 seasons, 9 players for 3 seasons, 12 players for 2 seasons, and 30 players for 1 season. Although 8 of those are on this roster this year, so that's going to be like 6, probably 4 less. So it'll be 26, I think, if 4 guys stick around. Regardless, the point is, it doesn't take long to build a roster. You get a lot of one-and-done guys in here. So why are we justifying giving a guy more time? I don't understand that. Just because the NIT run, like, I don't care about the NIT. Like, Carolina turned down the NIT. Good for you. Like, I don't want to associate my brand with the NIT. Our goal is to win the NCAA.
Well, that's the thing, too, is like if he wins, 20-ish games and, goes to the NIT, all right, he bought himself some time. If that's the case, if whatever coach comes in next and they win an ACC championship, by this standard, we should give him a lifetime contract.
Yep, he'll get a statue. Yeah.
He'll get a statue outside right next to David Thompson. Like, come on, guys. We got to have a little bit better of a standard there.
Yeah. It's funny, going back on the hot article that went out yesterday was the technician article. I'm going to pull it up right now because
I saw you comment about it, but I think I skimmed it, but I didn't really go into detail reading it. So
it was the most nonsense I've ever read in regards to it. It's everything that we all say shouldn't be the case, right? Mm-hmm. The excuses for keeping Kevin Keats. It was a we should keep Kevin Keats year article. Excuse me. And like your point, one of the points was because it's hard with Carolina and Duke in the same neighborhood. I'm like, are we still talking about that? Those 2 programs are not the same as they were, right? It's unbelievable, man. Kevin Keats has proven that he can maximize the potential of his players. He has? Where's he proven that? I'd love to know that. And then the other one is, who could we hire better? Like, this is the loser mentality. And this is from the technician. I know it's a kid, whatever. But that is the mentality that has set in across the fan base, and that's unacceptable for a program with our history. Just to me, it's unacceptable.
I really don't like the who do we hire better argument.
It's terrible.
I think that you can say that, sure, if you have let's say a Calipari at the helms, right? Because he's Calipari. It's like Mike Tomlin for the Steelers. Like year in and year out, at the very worst, you're an above 500 team and you're in the playoffs. Why would you want to get rid of that, right? We are not that.
Yeah.
We can easily go get somebody better because the guy we had before, Keats, was just as good, if not better. He got you to, 4 tournaments?
2 Sweet 16s.
2 Sweet 16s. Look, Will Wade has been to 1 Sweet 16, so if you want to hire somebody better, there you go. I mean, that's just a lazy. I don't like that.
Quote. The Wolfpack is not having a bad season by any stretch. They're sitting at 16-10 overall record with an 8-7 ACC record. That ain't good.
If it's good or bad is not the question. Is it acceptable is the question. Do you accept that?
It's fair. Yeah. No, I do not accept.
All right, then who cares if you're having a good season?
Yeah. I'm trying to read some of the other quotes in here. 2017, Keats took over a NC State program, was in shambles. Okay, Godfrey had 2 bad years, but he also had 2 Sweet 16s. That's more than Kevin Keats has. They just lumped in every 10 year or every year of Godfrey's into the last 2, which I think is comical.
But throw up every single excuse in the book when it comes to Keats's bad moments during his time at State.
NC State had another solid season in year 3 under Kevin Keats, going 10-10 in the ACC, finding itself up on the bubble. Well, that's a great job. Really good. Like, how is that your standard for being acceptable or a solid season? Like, that's below average. I don't want that. I don't want to be on the bubble. I want to be in. You should be in the top 64. Should not be that hard to be on the top 64 teams in the country. I just don't understand how that is.
It just feels like a lot of people are convincing themselves that competing with Duke and Carolina is half the battle. Is like, as long as you're like not towards the bottom and you're winning every once or twice here and there, then boom, you're good enough. And it's like, that's how we got into this position in the first place.
Yeah. When looking back on Keats, I'm still reading this article again. When looking back on Keats' previous 6 seasons, it's difficult to say that Keats hasn't had the best of luck during his time with injuries and other circumstances.
Look, I can understand that. I've made that argument. I understand that, right? He has had some really, really, excuse my language, shit luck. All right. Players getting hurt or players coming and then deciding not to come at all. I get all that. That's fine, right? But if we're just chalking up to, well, he's had bad luck, so let's just, give him the benefit of the doubt. No, we're in year 7, man. Luck is out the door. You got to produce.
Here's another one. Missing the NCAA tournament this season would be disappointing, especially if considering the talent Keats has pulled from the portal. But even if that were to happen, it would still be a knee-jerk reaction to pull the plug after this year. How is that a knee-jerk reaction? It's been 7 years.
That's my question. Like, how long is long enough? Do you want to go 10 years?
The previous 2 coaches, Sidney Lowe and Mark Godfrey, did not last more than 6 seasons, and they were fired before they had a chance to right the ship. Like, how does this get posted? Is there not a editor in here that reads this nonsense? This is getting me fired up again, just reading this dribble. If Keats were to be fired in a season, there's no guarantee that Corrigan would be able to find someone better or who even wants to coach the Wolfpack. In 6 or 7 seasons from now, we could be having the same discussion again. 6 or 7 seasons? 4. 4 is the number. If you can't show me you're winning in 4 years, get out. Let me find somebody else. This is so stupid. It's the dumbest thing I've ever read in Technician. Unbelievable. Keats has proven he can maximize the talent on his players. No matter how the season ends, Keats should be given at least 1 more year at the helm of the program. After that, we'd have the same discussion again. Let's keep in mind, blah, blah, blah. What does 1 more year do for you? That's what I'd like to know. They turned off comments on this thing.
Gives you the chance or the ability to get some number of people invested back in. Like I said, if he goes on an NIT run here in the late season, people are going to just kid themselves that, yeah, we're fine. So,
yeah, it's unbelievable. The responses to this thing are just comical. Like, I love it. What a great logical article. It must have been his dad who wrote that. Anyway, that's it. I mean, it's time to move on. Let's set your standards higher. Set your goals higher. It's going to be really interesting. I think the whole thing, to me, Boo's contract just got renewed, right? Okay, whatever. Him making a major hire, I think, is going to be really fascinating.
And I think I asked you about that earlier this week. I think I texted you, like, do you think that this will have any effect on who he might hire, or does he want to swing for the fences, or does he care to swing for the fences? And I'm pretty sure I asked you that, right?
I don't think so.
Okay. Or it did, and you're just ignoring me.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he'll do. I don't think anybody does.
Right.
Do
you think he cares to make a big hire, or is he just like look, everybody else is doing fine, just go over there, NC State, just hang out, basketball?
Maybe. I mean, his reputation is a big game hunter kind of guy. So settling for a Ryan Odom and, again, punching bag, it would be strange to me. Like, that would be a strange move for a guy who's supposedly a big game hunter, right? I want to see an inspiring hire. I don't know what to do, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how he, one, conducts the search, and then who he gets, because there will be a lot of, I don't know, we've had a lot of leaky searches in the past.
Right.
And we've had Gary Williams sabotaging our search because of he didn't like Debbie Howe and whatever, right? Like, a lot of that nonsense. I don't feel like we have a lot of that turmoil anymore. So it will be interesting to see who he could land. I
think the one thing that, and the whole Boo situation more than me, I think if I'm Boo, the number one thing is I want to get a big hire, but I also want fans to come back to the arena. Like, you got to remember, this is a business. And so I could see him maybe talking himself out of hiring a Will Wade, just because we're sitting here having this conversation of, like, do you take the risk? We both agree you probably should, but that doesn't mean that everybody does. So if, from like a business standpoint, do you just go after just somebody who's young and spunky and clean slate, and that way you don't have to have this inner turmoil with fans? Do you just get a safe, yet good, but safe hire?
Oh, NC State will definitely go the safe hire route. I don't care who the administration is. That is just what we do.
And maybe eyes go to Dusty May.
I would love Dusty May, but I think he's going to Louisville. So
yeah,
I don't really know about that. I mean, the guy took FAU to the Final Four. Okay, that should say something. But I think he goes to Louisville. But my expectation is that NC State makes a safe hire, and that they take it. I don't know. I don't think they'll hire Will Wade, because I think it is too risky.
Yeah.
Or too risky, or
quote unquote risky.
Yeah. And what's the right way to say this? Controversial, I guess. We won't do that. We are scared of the NCAA. Historically, in administration, board, whoever is making these decisions, just scared to make any sort of risky hire. Bruce Pearl, right? Name was out there a while ago. Just NC State just does not do those kind of things. So I don't expect them to do it, but when this news goes down, Will Wade will be out as my first choice, and my second choice as well. And then my third choice will be Calipari, and then Musselman. Right?
Yeah, I think Calipari personally is just wishful thinking. I would love to see it, of course, but I also want somebody a little bit younger, just because I want them out here for the long run if they are the right coach, rather than going to get somebody who's 60 plus years old, or however old Calipari is.
I was getting ready to look that up.
Make a guess. Hold on, make a guess.
Oh, I already looked.
67, 65, 65.
Yeah, he's 65.
Oh, let's go.
He goes.
He's old as dirt, man.
But he's toiling in mediocrity. The league is winnable. There's no dominant players anymore. You should be able to flex your muscle and just impart your will on being at least in the top three. Top five, top three. Top five is a very bare minimum goal. Top three is what I'm shooting for in the league. Right? You should be a top three program in this league.
Anything other than 7 through 9 every year, I'm cool with.
Yeah,
I'll take a top
seriously.
6. You know, so
yeah, make the inspiring higher. That's
you got to get your fans back. You're flirting with, just people just not caring, and the fact that like the women's team is doing so good and the men's team isn't. Like, it's capable, and it shows that people care, but you're going to get left on the back burner.
People want to care. That's the thing. Like, it's funny if the reports from the students around campus these days is that nobody talks about basketball, and it's just not important anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We let that happen to us. I know everything's shifting towards football, but we are responsible for that. I want to get that back. When I was in school, back in my day, as an old guy would say, back in my day, like, it was the thing. Like, you were lining up for basketball tickets every time there was a game. Every morning, every day before, you're lining up to get tickets. I don't care if it was Georgia Tech or Virginia Tech. Like, you were showing up. And there was excitement, and people were talking about, you going to the game tonight? Yeah. And, like, it's just none of that anymore.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to claim that Keats is the reason that fans feel this way. I think it's more of like 40% Keats, more so 60% of like the NIL, and just the fact that like money has just saturated this entire sport, and just,
I think it's the program. I think it's the
dry.
administration's fault. I think they've let us accept being on the bubble as good. Like, let us accept being middle of the road and a kicking punching bag for Carolina and Duke. Like, they let that be okay. And the fans see that. I don't know if it's the NIL and stuff. Like, people will still show up. Now, there is less of a emotional tie to the teams when there is so much turnover every year, and you're not invested in the 4-year guy. So I get, some of that, but really it's us letting not winning anything be okay. So I don't know. Like, that's kind of where I feel like I think it's all on us, and I want them to commit to it. I want, nobody knows what Boo's doing, and I'm not saying we have to know, but I want to be able to say, okay, if he makes a hire that is inspiring here, I think a lot of people will change their mind about Boo's tenure.
Right.
Like, it's as easy as that. It's as easy as hiring a name or a big game hunting and getting that person in for everybody just to kind of, okay, I can get behind Boo. He can be the guy.
And I want to say this now.
It's going to still be. We're just still gonna waffle around with some people like Boo, some people don't. Nobody knows what he's doing. Whatever.
Yeah.
If he hires a big name guy, everybody will support him.
Yeah. And I want to say this now just because I can see it happening because I've done it myself. The first year of a new head coach is always the best year because there's no expectations. Whatever you get is what you get, and it's fun and it's great. But we did that with Keats. All right. Let's give it a year or two before we, are willing to throw in the towel or get excited or whatever. Just let's figure it out and go from there. But it's more of a, I guess, note to myself than anything. Like, don't get caught up in the first year. Unless it is a Will Wade, then yeah, I'll get super caught up.
Yeah. I get fired up. Right? I just want to get fired up for basketball again. And I think it's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Just going by the tone of the chat, like, man, I just want to care again. Because
it's all just anger. Like, I just want to see people smile, Like, let's smile every once in a while.
It's not even anger as much anymore. I think we're past the anger. We're on to the apathy. And I remember that when Tom O'Brien got fired. It was the same deal. Everybody's just like, well, all right, what's next? And everybody's just ready to turn the page. So here I am, turn the page. That should have been my intro music. Here we are, turn the page. What's that, Metallica song? Yeah. But I don't know. Let's hire somebody. Let's move on with this tenure when this year is over. As soon as the regular season is over, let's get it done and move on. They're going to wait till after the AC tournament at least, or probably the NIT. Well, even so, let's move on. Let's hire an inspiring person. Let's get the excitement back in NC State basketball. That's what I want. Anything else you want to touch on?
Can we talk about Akon and T-Pain? Or
yeah.
Okay, I'd love to ask you.
One's a sex offender and one's not.
I don't know where you're going with that. I'm just talking about music. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm just asking from a standpoint of early 2000s, okay? I'm not talking about where we see T-Pain at now and his beautiful, beautiful voice. But Akon, early 2000s, prime Akon and prime T-Pain, I think it's 50-50. And everybody's on T-Pain. I can understand that. That's fine.
Right.
But let's put some respect on some Akon music,
Keats.
you know?
Akon's a Kevin Keats of the 2000s, right? T-Pain is the John Calipari. He's got way more on his resume than Akon does.
I just don't think it's that lopsided, man. Akon, I don't know. Akon had some bangers back in the day.
He did. I'm not going to lie. Like, he's got some good songs, but I think if you're just looking at depth of, what do they call portfolio, or what do they ever call it in the music version?
Discography, is that?
Yeah, right. T-Pain's is way bigger. He's got his appearances on some. He's got his songs. And he was more of a, like, guest star and all these things. But he had the Black Eyed Peas too, and they were huge for a long time there. Before they, yes, where T-Pain was from. You're looking at me like crazy.
No, what?
T-Pain was a member of the Black Eyed Peas. Did you find it yet?
No. I love how we both got really quiet, but what are you talking about?
Regardless, his
what
of music is way better. Oh no, Will.I.am, sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say, what? I was so confused.
Yeah, Will.I.am, sorry. I got them both mixed
I
up.
hope, oh my goodness.
That's funny.
Didn't we start this off with I don't know any music, and here you are calling Will.I.am and T-Pain. By default, Akon wins.
What's your favorite Akon song then?
Oh God, I mean, there's just so many. How do you even pick? All right, so I remember being like third or fourth grade or whenever I was when Soul Survivor came out, and I thought I was the hardest little elementary schooler ever. So I had that on my resume. I just had sex. If I can talk about that one, that was banger. That one he did with Gwen Stefani, where he gets all like the high note, banger.
Smack that,
banger. I mean, I'm drawing a blank. Dang it. Hold on. I gotta go through them.
His Sorry, Blame It On Me. That was like one of his most popular songs, 4.5 million plays.
I Want to Love You, banger. Beautiful, banger. Right Now, banger. Lonely, Don't Matter. Locked Up. I mean, come on now. And Bartender, T-Pain, and Akon. So, I mean.
Yeah.
We need to put this to a vote.
I'm looking at, all right, so his top videos on YouTube, Smack That, 1.1 billion views. Akon, Jeez. Lonely, 1 billion views.
Lonely?
Right Now, 900 million views. And Don't Matter, 600 million views. After that, it drops off pretty good.
Ignore that. Ignore all that. Like Akon says, that don't matter, no.
I'm going to look at T-Pain. T-Pain's got a fraction of subscribers, so that's kind of crazy.
Boom.
Oof. His views get crushed by...
See, these are the conversations that matter. These are the ones that we need to be having in America.
Wow, his views get crushed, but he's also he was before Akon, really. That's before YouTube music. I don't know. He was more of a guest on all these songs. I mean, I guess if you're talking about like their own songs, Akon's probably got a little bit more.
Prime,
but if you're talking
2000s.
about their whole resume,
I think that's a good way to put it. I think
yeah,
T-Pain had quality, but Akon had quantity. Or am I just completely wrong? Or Will.I.am? That's the real kicker.
That would found the real winner. He's
There's
got
no
way
way.
more views than all these chumps. Yeah, he's got a bunch. Yeah, Akon still got more views.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at Spotify plays too, but I'm not going to do that right now. Anyway,
Save it for another day.
yeah.
Who needs to talk head coaches when we can talk Akon versus T-Pain?
I don't know why you got on that kick, boy. I'll tell you what.
Everybody was so quick to say T-Pain, and I'm like, maybe it is T-Pain, but can we at least just think it over a little bit?
Yeah. I did open Spotify. We're going to look. Yeah, I mean, Akon's got way more views. I think T-Pain was just being on everybody's albums and being on everybody's songs is probably what does it for him.
True.
But Akon's got more songs. That's for sure. Random ass debate I never thought I would have.
It's a good one.
It's fine. I don't hate either of them.
You got to come at me with one next episode.
Okay.
I want that.
Yeah, I will. All right. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting the pod. Join us in the pod chat. We're putting on a lot of content. If you got something to write about, feel free to send it to us. redmightpodcast@gmail.com. We've got a bunch of good ones come in and go up. I think it's great to see everybody's perspectives and whatnot. But as always, thanks for listening, and talk to y'all next time. Go Pack.